If you grew up in the 1980s or 90s, there's a good chance you owned a micro machine. Maybe it was a sports car, a fire truck, or one of those awesome play sets. Or maybe, like me, you mostly remember stepping on them barefoot. And trust me, they hurt almost as much as Legos. But these tiny toys weren't just popular. At one point, they became the best-selling toy car line in America, outselling Hot Wheels and Matchbox combined. So how did micro machines become such a huge success, and what happened to them? Let's find out. Micro machines first arrived in 1986, created by toy company Galoob. While Hot Wheels and Matchbox focused on larger die-cast cars, micro machines went in the opposite direction. They were tiny. You could fit several in your pocket and carry an entire collection without needing a giant toy box. That was part of the appeal. Kids could build miniature worlds with sports cars, trucks, airplanes, military vehicles, and emergency vehicles. I loved them. In fact, I swear micro machines multiplied when nobody was looking. You'd buy a few packs, and before long they were scattered all over the house, under the couch, under the bed, and occasionally waiting to ambush your bare foot in the middle of the night. Of course, the toys were only half the story. The commercials were unforgettable. If you grew up during that era, you probably remember the guy talking at what seemed like superhuman speed. That was John Mosqueda Jr., known as the world's fastest talker. His commercials were loud, energetic, and impossible to ignore. As a kid, I don't think I understood half of what he was saying, but I remembered every second of it. And apparently, so did everyone else. The marketing worked. By 1989, just 3 years after launch, Micro Machines had become the best-selling toy car brand in America. For a while, they were everywhere. The company expanded into playsets, military collections, airplanes, boats, and licensed products. For many kids, those giant playsets sitting on the Toys R Us shelf were the ultimate dream toys. It seemed like Micro Machines couldn't lose. But by the mid-1990s, things began to change. Video games were becoming more popular, and kids suddenly had a lot more entertainment options competing for their attention. At the same time, the brand expanded into so many different themes that it started losing some of its original identity. Then came the biggest turning point. In 1998, Hasbro purchased Galoob. While the deal gave Hasbro valuable toy properties, Micro Machines slowly became less of a priority. Fewer products appeared. Store shelves got smaller. And eventually, the tiny toy cars that once dominated the toy aisle nearly disappeared. For many of us, it felt like they were gone forever. But nostalgia has a funny way of bringing things back. Collectors kept the brand alive, vintage sets became highly sought after, and fans never forgot the tiny cars they grew up with. Today, Micro Machines are back with new releases and updated versions of classic playsets. They're not the powerhouse they were in the late 1980s, but they're still around. And that's pretty impressive, because for something so small, Micro Machines left behind a huge legacy. They filled our pockets, took over our bedrooms, hid under our furniture, and occasionally attacked our feet. Not bad for a toy small enough to disappear between the couch cushions. And that's the story of how Micro Machines went from being everywhere to almost gone. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.